one simple rule.
Elements cannot mix.
That pipe squished me all out of shape.
Dang.
This story is about fire and water, two things that shouldn't mix. Who are you more like, Ember or Wade?
I've heard from my story artist that there's a little bit of me in both of these characters, but I feel like I'm more Wade in terms of the emotionality and everything. And I've got some water weight that I could stand to lose for sure.
So tell me, Peter, how did this story come to you? You've worked at Pixar for 20-something years, and,
Yes.
and how did this present to you?
Just like how I started as a kid, like you're just drawing and doodling, and then there was this sort of like, like when you're free writing and just whatever's coming out, this little fire character came out of a pencil. It doesn't look like Ember, but there was this little character that started to appear, and then I just started drawing and having fun with that character, burning things, burning holes, or then getting boiled by water, and then all of a sudden from that water, it's like, oh, what if water was a character? And from there, it just started growing and growing and growing.
So you get the idea for Elemental. How do you approach your bosses, though, and say, hey, I've got this idea and I want to pursue it?
There's this game of potential that I play with myself, meaning that, okay, there's these drawings of fire and water, but that's not enough. And then I attach that to my personal life of having married someone that wasn't Korean. All of a sudden, these two opposites started to meld into this experience of marrying someone that was outside of my culture. And all of a sudden, giving these characters a little bit of that layer started to deepen the idea, and it brought me to this question of, what if fire fell in love with water? What would happen? And then that triggered this potential thing in me of like, oh, there's some potential in this idea. It's not fully baked yet, but there might be something there. And then I start pitching that to friends and just hearing like, what do you think? And then from there, it's just like, yeah, what's the story? And then going into the story, there was this moment where I thanked my parents in front of a lot of friends and people, and all of a sudden that idea of understanding foreigners and being grateful for the sacrifices that they made started to also layer in. So it was just this, and then all of a sudden there's more potential to the story. There's more potential, and you just keep pitching, searching for that electricity of something that could grow into something more.
So Peter, is it easier or harder when it's something so personal and close to you?
That is a great question. Good Dino, the first film that I directed, it wasn't a personal thing. Decisions was easier to make on that. We were going so fast, but because it was just like, okay, it was a math problem. Where this one, because there's so much emotion tied to it, it made those choices a lot harder. And so you had to play a different game with it. But you had a North Star that helped you because these things take so long. There was a North Star there that was really useful when I got lost. So that personal connection is that fuel that just keeps you going. These things take forever. It's like watching paint dry sometimes. It's so hard. But when you're in the weeds, there's a little star of that personal connection that you can latch back onto.
So am I right, you were the inspiration for Russell and Up?
Yeah, I was one of the inspirations for Russell, and it all came from this. We caricature each other a lot at work. You're just doodling each other, and my friend Ricky drew me as a giant thumb, and that's sort of, and that they had heard that I was a Boy Scout in New York, which they thought was ridiculous. Like, what forests are you going to do yourself? Like, we were just doing it on the sidewalk, and all of a sudden that started forming this character of Russell, who was originally named Lewis, fun fact, But yeah, and I did the scratch voice for him. I was like a 30-year-old going like, "Hey, Mr. Fredrickson," and helping have fun with that team on that was just something, just love it.
What's the takeaway you hope audiences leave the theater with after Elemental?
I hope they have a great time in the movie. Hopefully they've seen something new and experienced something real. And if they're connecting to it, I'm very happy. But the idea of thanking the people in our lives that have made sacrifices for us is just something that I hope, like, if someone walks out of the theater, I'm going to call that friend or that family member, I'll be great,
Controversial question, what is your favorite Pixar movie?
I feel like the first Toy Story was my favorite movie. I saw it in college, and it changed my life. Like, meaning I had just been studying 2D, and watching the magic of that reality come to life and the focus on characters was so mind-bending, and I still am inspired by it. I'm still inspired by all the risks that they took to get that when there wasn't anything else like it before.
Try this!
Dad, those are too hot.
I love hot food.
fix it.